بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الهزن إذا شئت سهلا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Praise Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. We ask Allah to send countless blessings and salutations on Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his family and companions, and all those who followed them in excellence until the day of judgment. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us all the sincere intention. Alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala to all of you who have joined us tonight. This is our part 2 of the Black Imams Roundtable, addressing the issues confronting our community or the concerns of our Muslim communities, specifically in the inner city. And we are joined tonight with the Imam, great Imam, the Sheikh of the, what's that, Boomba?
The Boom Bat.
The Boom Bat. Imam Faheem Lee, mashallah, my brother, from Quba School and Islamic Center in Camden, New Jersey. And inshallah, in a little while, Imam Naeem Abdullah from Masjid in Pittsburgh and Imam Luqman Ahmad from Toledo, Ohio will be joining us. And we're going to have a conversation about concerns of our Muslim communities. So inshallah, to get it started, I wanted to start with you, Brother Imam, with some opening words about some significant things that you think the community in the inner city, the African American community specifically, are in need of in terms of organizational structure. Because we left off that on the last one, you were talking about the importance of structure and organization and economics. And inshallah, if you can take 5 minutes to really add a little, or a little bit more if necessary, to add on to those, some details to what you were talking about, and how can we practically implement some of your ideas as communities.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala ashraf al-anbiya wa mursaleen. Sayyidina wa habibina al-Mustafa Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wa ba'd. Excuse me, I just got distracted real quick. Yeah, well, firstly, we like to welcome all of you tuning in and taking your time this evening to join us. Alhamdulillah, we appreciate it very much. Just a few words to add on to what Imam Amin was speaking about, some of the stuff that we're trying to do. I think it just really comes down to us understanding the importance of committing to a community, you know, and I think we've lost this, and we've lost this over some time, and there are a number of factors that go into it, you know, and some of it is understandable, you know, and some of the past times you've had ineffective and disengaged leadership, you have criminal leadership, you have corrupt leadership, and you know, and I'm pretty sure that some, you know, people have, you know, they've become weary, you know, but with respect to people like myself, Imam Amin, Imam Naeem, Imam Luqman, people who have proven to be tried and true with respect to service. I think people have to really get on board and just commit and offer everything that they have at their disposal to help our communities grow. Um, I attended a conference a few years ago, and they were speaking about the different kind of Islamic communities, and they were, identifying the type of imams, whether you're a leader imam, imam who works for a board, or imam who has total control and autonomy. And they were saying that imams like us, in the inner cities who are in, service to people who are really in need of service, but may not financially be able to take care of the imams. They said, you'll have complete control. No one will be able to tell you what to do, but you won't grow. And this stuck with me for a while, and I refuse to kind of believe that, but it's just like, if we're able to, move freely and do the things that we need to do, but we don't have the support systems. Many times, we're doing a lot of things on our own, and it's like, not a one-man show, because you do have people when you need them, but it's just like there's a lot of hats that we have to wear, and then, the money doesn't match the work and the effort that you have to put in, and the time that you have to take away from your family and even your own, committed to yourself, because if we lose our own selves, then we can't be of service to anybody. And, keeping your composure together and keeping your sanity in the midst of all the stuff that you have to do for people, it's a lot, but really, I think people, I've said this often, I always say it, the least part, I wish the only thing that I really had to do was give money. I wish the only thing that all I had to do was just be committed. I wish that, all I had to do was someone, that calls on me and be like, listen, I need this, that, and the other done. And, it'll get done, so many community members, you guys have the easy part, to give money and to give your time and to give your energy, and people like us, we have the responsibility to make sure all this stuff is working properly and functioning properly. And, and that we don't go before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Yom Kiyama, in chains and, being questioned about the people that we were over. That's a tremendous thing. It's enough to make you just walk away, because no one in the sound mind will want that kind of responsibility. But there is a need for our service, and we just need people to kind of get recommitted, and and not just money, your presence, your ideas, your energy, your efforts, all of that means it means a lot for us in the community. And I think we just need to really get back to that. If you think about some Imam Amin, some of you have been tuning in, some very beneficial talks after Fajr. Not after Fajr, post Fajr reflections. Some of the things, mentioned about some of the previous movements that came to our communities, and they had money. They had money, they had support, and they had people who didn't have a lot of knowledge, but they had a whole bunch of commitment, and we really need to get back to just being committed, and if we do that, then I think we can start seeing some significant growth, because when we get together, then ideas start to come together. When we get together, there's so much potential that we have when we work together and we're working off of each other, instead of, everybody's just, passing the buck to the imam or the administration, just give it to the imam and he'll take care of it and all that, even, stuff that, to me, I think, like when for instance, when it's time for somebody to take Shahada, how many times, Imam, you probably can witness this. Someone wants to take Shahada, they want to bring, they want you to stop what you're doing, give them Shahada. Like, every one of us, we should have enough knowledge these days, you can give somebody Shahada, don't wait on me, to give that person their salvation. Tell that person, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, have a working knowledge of what that entails, and help that person enter into Islam, And, I mean, things like that, that makes a world of difference, And then, this whole idea is just putting all of the focus and emphasis on the imam, but then until it's time to, pay up, you know what I mean? When it's time to take care of the imam, that he can at least have some kind of working comfortability, I mean, we're not looking for much. I'm in the same boat as Imam Amin. I don't need a lot, but I mean, I don't have to worry about I'm coming home and you hit the light switch and the lights don't come on. And, nobody wants to hear that, and everything, because we don't complain and we don't put our business out there, they think, it's cool. No, it's not cool. I need my lights paid like you. And it's like, we can also take the initiative and earn money ourselves, but we've taken this task to take care of people, and you got to take care of us, and we just really got to get back to that. Take care of the people that I mean, I'm not bragging or anything, but there ain't too many people that can say that they came across my desk and, didn't take care of them. Not too many. I mean, there's a lot of critics and people saying you let them down, and that's natural, but ain't too many people to say we don't respond. And I know Imam Amin is the same way, and Imam Naeem, and I'm pretty sure Imam Luqman is. I'm not familiar with him that much, but he's in our circle, so I'm pretty sure he's the same. So when you see it, just don't just assume that we okay because we're not making noise about it. A lot of times, in the communities that we come from, the imam is probably suffering the most. The imam is taking the loss the most, and we just got to save face, and we got to do a lot of stuff. But we probably, like for instance, if somebody comes and they say, "Well, imam, who needs sadaqah? Who need like." I really should be raising my hand first. You know what I mean? But we give ourselves over to our brothers and sisters. But I mean, I don't want to, keep going on about it, but it's really just getting back to being committed, being present, and give our time to the community like we would give to anything else that's going to benefit us as individuals,
So, one of the things that you mentioned that I think is in, mashallah, assalamu alaikum, Imam Naeem.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you good.
Alhamdulillah.
So one of the things that, is extremely important is
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
About those different styles of leadership models. And I think, you talk about the imam who's like leader imam, or imam who has all control of everything, or the board model. I haven't really seen a model that has been able to be sustainable in most of our inner city masjids, besides the imam to having most of the responsibility on his shoulders. And I think a lot of that is due to what you were talking about in terms of actual participation from the community and buy-in. Quickly, before I go to Imam Naeem, what do you think, because that's a model, like where you said that you basically wearing so many hats, and what is a way to join between the model of a board where the imam has no power and he's not able to do the things he needs to do religiously, usually because a board has its own agenda and he's just a hired hand, but that is money that comes with that, because the imam in that situation is usually just an employee. And in the situation that you talked about, which is predominant in the African-American community, the imam is actually paying himself. So he's in that situation. What is a way you think we could join between those two models that would work for our communities? That's Imam Faheem.
I think it really comes to, we got to lay out a real solid economic plan, because in my experiences, I could get the support that I need, but then it was like when people had to pursue their own, economic interests, then I'll lose them, and that's understandable. I mean, somebody who told me this the other day. It says, they said a volunteer, they do what they want, but employee does what they're told.
Hey, that's
So,
my saying that I got from
no, that's yours?
someone told me that.
Okay, well, I got it from you then. So, I mean, I give the credit where credit's due. I just couldn't remember. But that was a profound statement, though. A volunteer, they come and, oh, it's feasibility. Then even if you be like, no, I want to pay you, and they say feasibility, then feasibility is like some of the most subpar work that you see sometimes, and that's a shame. You know what I mean? It really is. Well, and but if people have to, when it's time for them to pursue their own individual interests, then you lose them. So when we have an economic plan where people get paid and they will respect the kind of leadership that we have, you know what I mean? So I think that's, in my opinion, that's where we need to go, really, where we can pay people to do the job that we need them to do, because money's always the motivator.
Right. Imam Naeem, so we wanted to bring you up where we started with. We was talking about organizational structure and community structure within our masajid, and also how do we develop these economic plans that he was talking about. So inshallah, if you want to give your idea of how we can be most effective in establishing strong organizations within our masjid, structure, and economic development.
Man. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Strong organizational structure. As far as because I think we're dealing with, because we're in America, we trying to juggle two different structures at the same time and we're really trying to synthesize between the two. In other words, we're in America, so organizationally we have to exist somehow, right? And basically that you're going to basically it's going to come down to one of three types of entities or some type of hybrid or combination of the two. You're either going to be what's called sole proprietorship, meaning an individual owns the thing, or you're going to be a partnership, meaning two or more people are partners in the thing, or you're going to be a corporation where in this society, they created a corporation is like a person that's not a human being, so it has the rights of of a person. And then under all of that, you got profit and non-profit. So most masajid are non-profit corporations, and when you have non-profit corporations, the 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 document or the constitution that governs that entity is its bylaws. And so, as far as Muslims and what I think should be the way that we govern ourselves is that our bylaws should be as Islamic as possible. And so our bylaws should not arrogate authority to a board. For example, it may have a board, but the ultimate authority should not be the board itself. And so you can have your bylaws drafted in such a way that the final authority sits with whoever the leader is, regardless of the title, Imam or Amir or Sheikh or what have you. And so that's on one side. On the other side, as far as the Islamic side, we have, beautiful models to choose from, not only the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but also, the rightly guided khulafa, the rightly guided caliphs. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnatul khulafa rashidin mahdin min ba'di." It's obligatory upon you to follow my sunnah as well as the sunnah of the rightly guided caliphs that come after me. And so we have a lot of models to look at. And I think the model that most people are familiar with, because it's so rigorously documented, is the model of Umar ibn al-Khattab. Even when you look at from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Abu Bakr to Umar to Uthman to Ali to Al-Hassan, to Muawiyah, and you look at the transfer of power, you see different ways that leadership can be transferred. So just to summarize, I think that the masjid, the masajid, the community should not have a model like a corporate model, like, okay, we're going to vote. Everything is reduced to a vote, because you can have situations where the board is going to vote on whether they're going to support LGBT, for example. And if your bylaws stipulate that, the majority wins, then the masjid will be supporting LGBT, so it can't be a majority wins. And a lot of people always ask, well, isn't Islam like democracy and democracy like Islam? No, because if you look at the situation for example, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he took counsel with the Sahaba, including Umar ibn al-Khattab, about, for example, sending the army out to fight the Romans. Everybody told Abu Bakr to, no, bring Usama's army back to Medina. We need the army to defend Medina. And him being a leader, he was outvoted. But he said, no, I'm not going to recall the army. I'm not going to undo what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. And he said, even if I have to go out myself and do it, then I will do it. And then Umar said that he recognized that Abu Bakr was closer to the truth afterward. And this story is well known. It's mentioned in Bukhari and in the book of Hudud, etc. So I'm just mentioning some things, some characteristic of Islamic community and leadership and structure. So I think that, the masjid should be set up that there's some type of shura, majlis, some type of governing body, but at the end of the day, the final decision is with one person. Alhamdulillah.
And so here, because these are important things, and if I look at, like at Masjid Muhammad, and I was having a talk with Imam Luqman earlier today, or no, that was you, Imam Naeem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were talking.
Yeah.
I've talked to both, but in the conversation I had mentioned to you was like, at Masjid Muhammad in Atlantic City, we're very strict in terms of leadership and board. So we have boards. We have like two types of boards. We have an executive board and we have an advisory board. The executive board are those people who are 100% in line with the direction of leadership in the masjid. So therefore, these are all people that understand our methodology as a community. So Masjid Muhammad, we follow the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So all of us are Ash'aris. All of us follow one of the four schools of fiqh. Just so happen, mostly everybody on our board are Shafi'i. And all of us adhere to the path of a tasawwuf. So in Masjid Muhammad, no one on the executive board can have a methodology outside of that methodology of Ahl Sunnah. So if you came to Masjid Muhammad, like, I want to be on the executive board. Well, not only do you have to be following Ash'ari or Maturidi creed and following one of the four schools and following the way of Tasawwuf, but also you have to actually learn that. So before you can be on that executive board, you have to have learned some books. And as you know, our habit is we go from cover to cover. It's not going to be, even if you don't master it, but you are familiar with all of these sciences and what that entails. In this way, we ensure that the masjid stays on the same direction. Right. Now, these are the people that are making the major decisions, all of them under the leadership of the Imam, right? And so ultimately, as the Imam happens to be me at this time, but in the future, it may be someone else. And I pray that soon someone comes. But I'm like I usually don't vote on anything. Only time I come in is when there's a discrepancy, right? And then my job is to settle that discrepancy. So in other words, really who's running the community is that executive board. But that executive board is getting suggestions from that advisory board. And that advisory board is just there to bring ideas, to consult with, to run our stuff by. So make sure that we're rechecking and rechecking and rechecking to do the best we can for the community. But in order to keep our community on one page, it is essential that the people who make decisions are on one page. So we would never have like a case where someone's going to support an agenda that contradicts Islam or contradicts the way of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Like, I remember it was a time when we had a board that was all mixed with people from all kinds of backgrounds and thoughts. And we used to fight. And I remember that time I wasn't the Imam. Our Imam Qadi Shakur, rahimahullah, was alive. And I remember going to those board meetings and be like, this is a waste of time. Why? Because everybody wasn't on the same page. You had some people pushing this idea, this one pushing that idea, and it was like a lot of trying to sabotage the leadership often. That happened a lot, and that was something you raised. So maybe we can, in y'all communities, how do y'all solve this problem of vying or competing ideas or methodologies? I explained how we do it. Interesting. Imam Faheem, you want to start?
No, I won't go before Imam Naeem.
I knew he was going to do that. Go ahead.
No, I'll go. I inherited, to be honest, this Imam thing, I kind of inherited a headache, man, to be honest, man. And so I just always took the position that I want to try to do my best at being a servant Imam, that, my teachers kind of taught me, just be a service to the people. And but how we had, I'm just recently, the last couple of years, really getting a structured kind of board with people that I know is going to be committed, because our situation in Camden is a little different because of what we're surrounded by. We have a lot of Muslims who are just displaced. And, and then we have a lot of people, now we're in a time with the social media, nobody's really committed to learning like that, and then nobody wants to feel like that they don't know anything. And then, if they challenged on it, they feel intimidated. And then there's a lot of people that just don't know, what Ahl Sunnah is, and then, getting these outside influences, from the Wahhabis and stuff like that. A lot of people are mixed up with a lot of stuff. So, but as far as my community, I have myself, 2 other brothers, and then I have 4 other sisters. And, I just kind of put my ideas out there. We go over them, and then we just kind of come to what the best one that we think is as a collective. And then we just go with it. And then we just try to, if it's an event, who's going to take care of the flyer, who's going to do the contact, the PR person, all that. And then we just put it together, and we just check each other, But ultimately, I make the final decisions, but I try to, unless it's really necessary, I just kind of go with the flow. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, but that's how we really do it. Cause we're a small community. We might have 10 solid families, 10 solid families for Jumu'ah, 50 or 60 brothers, and then that fluctuates. And, a lot of sisters don't come for Jumu'ah. So it's a little different setup. But, we actually in the process of fixing a lot of things that came before us. And, just trying to unpack a lot of the, stuff that happened, and rebuilding, relationships. And, because for a long time, the Quba school was kind of like dormant, it was kind of dormant, and then with the Wahhabi influence, they get a lot of numbers, and, we just get a lot of people who are just we got a lot of Muslims in this area just displaced, and cause one of the signs they say, like, where you been at, brother? How you been? Oh, I go to all masjids. So when they say that, that means no, you go to the other masjid, And you only saying that because now you're confronted with having to address it. But you don't, I never see you. You know what I mean? I don't see you. So I know you don't come here. I know you don't go to Masjid because, you know, you think they're deviant. So, you know the language already because of the environment. So, and we're just trying to create an environment where people can feel welcome and not, you know, feel like, you know, like if they go other places, they gotta, you know, be on the defensive or watch out for something. You know, we get all types of characters, but for the most part, if it ain't nobody, you know, nobody's watching them, you know, they be like, yeah, we love y'all there at the Quba school. But if they get around somebody, you know, they become mute. You know what I mean? I mean, and it's just the area we live in because, you know, in Camden we got that Wahhabi, the extreme Wahhabi, the Madkhalis. They like the Irish of the Salafi. You know, they the worst. They're the worst. And then they got their affiliates in Philly. So we kind of like surrounded by it, you know what I mean? And so that's the kind of fight we're dealing with, and just getting people to get this concept of, you know, forget all that nonsense of what people telling you, stuff that's really over your head. Just stay focused on serving your community for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you'll go a long way if you stick with that. So
Imam Naeem, how about there in your community? How do you address these issues from avoiding where you have all these different ideas coming in and disrupting the orderly structure or running of your community? What do you have in place, or what is some of the ways y'all do to avoid that?
Well, alhamdulillah, my situation is a lot like Imam Faheem's. Like I also inherited this community. There were 3 imams before me, and our community, just like Imam Faheem's, is very small. And so our majlis, we kind of like revamped our majlis. Our majlis is our governing body in this community, and it's also, you know, they're also board members, you know, for legal purposes. But what governs the community is our majlis. And so anytime there's in our majlis has committees or people that's in charge of certain things. Like we have someone in charge of uh, communication, a treasurer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, like you got it good, like Imam Amin, you got it good. Everybody say methodology, manhaj, and all that kind of stuff. Pittsburgh is, a lot of people think because it's in Pennsylvania, it's like Philly and it's like Camden. It's not. It's a lot more slower. But like Imam Faheem, like the interest in seeking knowledge is not there, you know, like it is in a lot of other communities. So, you know, we got to deal with a lot of misconceptions. You have to explain misconceptions. Even, you know, as imams, you know, I know y'all pay attention to how fast or slow information travels. And so information travels in Pittsburgh very slow. And so it takes a long time to get people up to speed on certain things. So a lot of when I teach, I try to keep it real simple and real basic. And in fact, when I was in Philly, I didn't do a lot of online classes because, because people came to class more. You know, especially if you was attacking the other group, you know, people show up to class because they want to hear the refutation. But in Pittsburgh is different. And I remember consciously making the intention that whenever I do classes here in Pittsburgh, that I would do it live, because the interest, generally speaking, in seeking knowledge is so low that, you know, sometimes I may be teaching class to one person, right? And then next week, two people will come, but it's 2 different people. Then next week 5 people may come, but you know. And so a lot of times my way of teaching and doing it online was kind of like giving people an option to, you know, catch up what they miss, because same like you, like people's work schedule and all that type of stuff. So and so it's a slower process, we trying to get to where you at, Imam. I mean, but here it's slower.
Okay. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, may Allah make us all continue to grow and grow and think. Question. Last time we had a serious talk about allegiance. So, and the term al-bay'ah was used, right? And many people were, you know, their feathers were kind of ruffled by that. And I wish Imam Luqman, he didn't make it yet. We're still waiting for him. But you were also addressing that issue. So could you talk about that and how you understand that to work in our community? Because we agreed that between all of us imams that we are one of the points and solutions that we wanted to solve with some of the issues that we had was that people have a connection to a masjid, have a connection to an imam, have some form of loyalty to leadership. And the term al-bay'ah was used. So could you go into that? And that is something that you are a big proponent of. So I'll let you tackle that issue.
Alhamdulillah. Bay'ah is legally defined as an oath. And if you're familiar with Arabic, you know, it shares the same root as like a business transaction, like buyu. And so a bay'ah is usually translated as oath of allegiance. And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is how he would, in fact, when you actually examine the seerah and the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when people would come into Islam, he would give them shahada and bay'ah. You know, and for example, if you look at the hadith of like when Amr ibn al-As radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he took shahada, he took shahada, and well, when he got to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he reaffirmed his shahada because he took shahada at the hands of an-Najashi, the Ethiopian king. And so he reaffirmed his shahada with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he also gave his bay'ah. Even if you look at the letter that an-Najashi wrote back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam invited him to Islam, and he accepted Islam, and he responded to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's letter. In that letter, he's saying that he had became Muslim and he had given his bay'at at the hand of his cousin, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. Ja'far, the brother of Ali, the son of Abu Talib. So these are just two references off the top of my head illustrating how that when people became Muslim, they not only affirmed their faith, took shahada, they also gave bay'ah. And this is in the Meccan period, before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had any tangible worldly authority, before he had any sultan, any governance. Even when you look at the books of Sirah, if you look at the English, it's usually translated as like the Treaty of Aqaba or the Agreement of Aqaba, meaning when those people from the Aus and the Khazraj, later known as the Ansar, came to Mecca to meet with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam 2 different years back to back. They met at a place called Aqaba. And, you know, they became Muslim and they agreed to support the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and host him in Yathrib, later to be called Medina. That what took place then was in Arabic is called the Bay'atul Aqaba. They gave a bay'ah. And so you find all throughout the Islamic history, bay'ah was what was used to organize the Muslims. And so you find even going forward, and I should say here again, bay'ah is an ahad, it's an oath. And so with that, there's a lot of different types of bay'ah. Not all bay'ahs are the same. A lot of people think bay'ah is just only for the Khalifa, and you find people using slogans like, you know, my bay'ah is only to a Khalifa. We ain't got no Khalifa, so I ain't giving bay'ah to nobody. or some people just even reject bay'ah altogether, and they make up slogans like "My bay'ah's to Allah and His Messenger." That's it, you know. So in Islamic history, you also have like at the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, before the Treaty of Hudaybiyah was concluded, they had what was called Bayatul Ridwan, the bayat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was pleased with. This is when they thought that Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu was killed. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam took an oath with all of the Sahaba that if that they would avenge the death of Uthman, even if all of them were to be killed. And so Allah makes reference to that, I believe, in Surah Fat, Surah 48. It's the bay'at that Allah was pleased with, or the bay'at tahta shajara, the bay'at under the tree, because that's where they took the bay'at. And so that's another example and another type of bay'at. You also have Ikramah ibn Abi Jahl, who was with Khalid ibn Walid as non-Muslims when they fought against the Muslims at Uhud. If you fast forward to the time when they took Shahada, there was he was the head of a group of horsemen. I believe it was the Battle of Mu'tah, and they did what was called, similar to the bayat that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam took at Hudaybiyah. They called Bayatul Maut, like pledge to the death. We're gonna fight till we die. And a lot of us always hear the story about these Sahaba in the trenches, and the water came to one, and they said, "Oh, give it to my brother. He needs it more than me." And then the next one said the same thing. And then when they got back around to the first person, he had died, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The front part of that is that all of those people had taken that bayat to die in this battle. And those people that were in the trenches were those who were mortally wounded, who had taken that oath, but they had not died yet. And so when the water came in, that was a fulfillment of their oath. And so that's one type of bay'ah. Then that's another type of bay'ah. There's another type of bay'ah that is becoming more and more popular now amongst our people, African American people. People are giving bay'ah to sheikhs or people that's guiding them on a spiritual path. And so that's another type of bay'ah. And so you'll find a whole lot of different types of bay'ah, in the Muslim community. So a lot of people think when you mention this word bay'ah, depending on who you're talking to, one of these types of bay'ahs will come in mind, and they don't realize that there are various types of bay'ah. And they usually assume that you're talking about that one. So there are a lot of different types of bay'ah. And wrapping up, my personal opinion is that the bay'ah that we should be talking about is similar to the bay'ah that a person would have to have with a khalifa, but there is no khulafa. We don't have the authority that a khalifa would have. So likewise, the imam's right to obedience will be limited or restricted, because people that are following imams, they're doing so voluntarily. And so those hadith, like, whoever dies without the bay'ah on his neck dies the death of jahiliyyah, those type of that type of hadith wouldn't apply, because that's for a khalifa. It's not for the imam and the masjid. So my opinion is that, imam should have that type of bay'ah, but on a restricted basis, because obviously an imam is not a khalifa, and so he doesn't have the authority to do everything that a khalifa would do and guarantee the rights, and give the believers the rights that a khalifa would have. So likewise, obligations to him should be restricted. So I'll leave it with that.
So Imam Luqman, you come right in on time. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
We have an agreement that there's $5 for every minute you late. So you owe around $200, my brother. We will be collecting it from you after the meeting.
Hello,
You need some money, we all understand that. So you can lead by example. We were talking about the concept that was mentioned last, and Imam Naeem just went in, talked about it. the concept of bay'ah or allegiance that was mentioned, and some people they get kind of confused when that's mentioned and even
Right.
nervous or intimidated. And in terms of our community, what do you understand when you use the term of allegiance, bay'ah, and how does that work in practical terms with our communities?
Okay. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Well, see, here's the thing. Okay. The concept of bay'ah, because bay'ah essentially means a contract of fealty. It just means that you are agreeing with someone to adhere to certain principles. Like, for example, in one hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, "Bay'ana Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ala sam'i wal ta'a wa nushin li kulli Muslim," that we made a bay'ah with the Prophet alayhi to hear and obey, and to just give good advice to every believers. And then you should have a bay'ah with, for example, when the woman came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made a bay'ah with them to Allah yushrikna billahi shay'a wa Allah yushrikna wa Allah yaqtulna awladahunna, and wa Allah yaftarina وأن لا يفترينه بين أيديهن وأرجلهن وأن لا يعصينك في المعروف فبيعهن واستغفر لهن الله. When the women came after post the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, the ones that wanted to migrate to Rasulullah sallallahu, and they migrated and they were married, they had to make a bay'ah, but it was for certain things: to not associate partners with Allah, to not steal, to not kill their children out of fear of poverty, to not spread scandal. And they were talking particularly about scandal when they would attribute their children to other than their fathers. And the last one was, and don't disobey you in anything that is known. And then Allah said to the Prophet, he said, فَبَيِّعْهُنَّ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُنَّ اللَّهِ. So make a bay'ah with them. So bay'ah does not have to be one thing. It's an agreement. The breadth of that agreement, the extent of that agreement, the understanding of that agreement, it varies. When I have people that have bay'ah to me, and their bay'ah is real general, to not associate partners with Allah, to try to live the life of Islam, to be honest in your dealings, to be good to your spouse, to respond to requests within reason, to be on post for the ummah. Bam, that's it. You got bay'ah. So if I'm with somebody and I say, hey, you know what, I'm trying to do so-and-so project and this and that, you think you could have any ideas? Well, their bay'ah is to give me clear advice. Say, Imam, I think this, I think that. And so the bay'ah with the Khalifa, and that varies. It varies whether that Khalifa, it varies to the extent of their land. Bay'ah is simply taking a person from being that, you're non-committed to nothing. You're not committed to anything. You're just there. Everything to you is like elective. I can't depend on you. There's someone saying, hey, I can, you can depend on me. Now, the thing about it is that because bay'ah, it really has a lot of political connotations with it, because you have people basically try to scare Muslims out of practicing anything of Islam, or scare us about, like they scare you about polygamy, they scare you about establishing Masjid, they scare you about paying an imam, they scare you about that. So bay'ah is just one of those categories, because when you go to your local bank, or when you go to Netflix and you say, hey, you know what, I want to get a Netflix contract, I like to see Netflix on my TV, and they say, okay, yeah, you're fine, Idris, I'm on the phone right now, you have to wait. What? Tell me later. Okay, you can tell me that. So when you go to Netflix and you want to use the Netflix service, right? They say, okay, well, here's our bay'ah with you. They say, check this check right here. You're making bay'ah. Check this, and you get one free month. But after that month, we're going to charge you whatever it is, $9 or $10 a month. And you can stop anytime. That's also part of that bay'ah. That bay'ah is that, hey, because the bay'ah there is not with Allah, it's with Netflix. And like Allah says, in الذين يبيعونك إنما يبيعون الله يد الله فوق أيديهم. And this verse came down at the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Allah says, verily those who make a bay'ah with you, their bay'ah is with Allah. Allah's hand is over their hand. That was a bay'ah over going into Mecca. There was no Khalifa then. They hadn't established statehood then. That was the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. That was like the second year of the first year of the Hijrah. So that was early on. Okay, I'm going to cut this for you in 10-15 minutes. Okay. Okay, I understand, please. I got that, son. But that bay'ah, it wasn't for the Khalifa. They were outside of Mecca. It was rumored that Uthman ibn Affan was either captured or killed. And the Prophet ﷺ said, hey, if they did something to Uthman, we are going to march on Mecca. We're going to march Mecca, and if we die doing it, but they're going to pay. Who's with me? And he put his hand out, and it was about 1,400 Sahaba who made bay'ah with him. But that was a bay'ah. And then you have a bay'ah of an army. You have bay'ah of a delegation. You can have all kinds of bay'ah. But if you're an imam of a masjid, you should have a bay'ah. People should have bay'ah with their imam. Even if because they have bay'ah with about 30 other entities. Every time you sign on something, anytime you sign a contract, because bay'ah is a contract, but it's a contract with Allah, between Allah and that whoever that imam is. It's a contract. So if you sign a contract saying, I'm going to use your service for 1 year. If you go to some cable companies, they say, I tell you what, you can get cable for $50 a month, for example, as long as you sign a 2-year bay'ah with us. And you're signing a bay'ah. Yeah, bay'ah. I'm making bay'ah with you. So that whenever you don't pay that bill, they're like, dude, you made a bay'ah, and we will take you to court over this bay'ah. And bay'ah essentially is that. And so the thing is, when you get these terms, you get these areas of fiqh, you have to follow the fiqh of whatever terminology, whatever thing you're doing. And that fiqh may vary. It may be more expanded, it may be more contracted, depending. That's the way that Islamic law works. Okay, salat is only, there's only 5 fard salats a day. That's never going to change. Siyam Ramadan is only going to be during the month of Ramadan. That's never going to change. Hajj is only going to be to the house, to Mecca, unless they change it. I mean, I don't know. But bay'ah is not set in stone like that. There's dozens of different types of bay'ah. When the Prophet sent Usama ibn Zayd to go to head the army to fight Musaylimah al-Kadhdhab, right? They all made a bay'ah with him. He was the emir. They had to make bay'ah. Hey, okay, y'all with Osama? Okay, Osama, we with Osama. If they didn't shake his hand, that was the condition. You couldn't go with the army and say, for real, I'm not down. I'm marching with the army, but if it comes to fighting, man, listen, I'm gonna make up my mind when I get there. No, you march with Usama ibn Zayd in that army. He is your emir. And if he tell that battalion or tell that platoon to go attack from the left, you need to be going to attack from the left, or it's going to be cowardice or treason. That was another bay'ah. All of a sudden, in fact, Umar ibn Khattab, because Umar took bay'ah, he took any contract seriously. Umar ibn Khattab, even after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, anytime he saw Usama ibn Zayd, he would call him Amir. And so Usama asked me, he said, why you call me Amir? He said, because when the Prophet was alive, he made you Amir over me. And if he makes him Amir over me, he's always my Amir. That's just, so I think you need to, some of these terminology, here's the thing too. This is my view, is that for many Muslims do get spooked. And some people get really, really, really spooked. And some people are going to be spooked no matter what. So when you do bay'ah, I mean, if you want to try reestablish Muslim communities like in America, that's on a decline, you have to have some sort of allegiance. You have to have some sort of reciprocal relation between imam and the follower. It just can't be, I'm just sitting here and, I'm not in, I'm not out. Allah calls them madhabdabin. Madhabdabin bayna dhalika. La ilaha ula wa la ilaha ula. They're oscillating between the two. Not on this part, not on that part. Here, son.
So question, Imam. Let me raise this question. So when we're looking at America, and I don't want to speak specifically into our community, because if we forget terminology, we'll find a lot in the immigrant community, which you'll find this type of covenant or allegiance.
Oh, they have
between their groups.
They do bay'ah.
So let's try to hone in on, because people get, like you said, spooked about terms. Yeah. Let's hone in on what is understood by the usage of the term and what we're really trying to get at out of this concept. Since we all agreed about this, let me go to Imam Faheem first, then I'll go to Imam Amin, then I'll come back to you. What does this concept of this contractual agreement, whether you call it an oath of allegiance, a covenant, a commitment, what does that look like to you on a local level and then on a national level? Whoever wants to jump in. Imam Faheem, you can take the ball and shoot if you like, or you can do one of your favorites behind the back passes. It's on you.
No, I'll go, inshallah. I think when we talk about bay'ah and dealing with the climate that we're in currently and the people we're dealing with, we just kind of have to, change the language for the same concept. So what I like to call it is affiliation. Mm-hmm. When we talk about bay'ah, making people feel like they're affiliated, because that is a language that, in some of the areas we live in that people use, you're affiliated with this community, you know what I mean? So with that affiliation, this is what you get as service, you get contact, you get notifications, you get counseling, you get classes, you get, assistance if it's necessary for you, all those kind of things, but you just have to be affiliated. Are you with us? Are you with us? On a local level, we just have to make sure that everybody who's with us is with us. And then on the national level, I think we just have to be connected to other communities and just, where we have common ground, we just use it and connect. So Muslims, the local people that we serve, can see those kind of connections and, they can feel like they have, this brotherhood, that we always talk about in Islam, that at least, it has some kind of, is genuine a little bit. But locally, make people feel like they affiliated, that they belong to something. And it's getting more complicated to do it because people just have the freedom to be wherever, do whatever, and not really have to be affiliated. So we got to go that extra mile to make them feel welcome and feel at home and feel like that they're part of something that's going somewhere. That's my take on it.
Imam Naeem?
Alhamdulillah. I think that as far as the local level, I think every masjid or imam, I think his bay'ah may vary. It would have I think it should have things general, because like I think Imam Luqman as well as myself, we mentioned the bay'ah of Aqaba, and even in that example, when like Ubadah bin Asamit radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he mentioned, because he was one of those who had given the bay'ah, he said that they gave bay'at, ala bay'at al-nisa'i. They gave the bay'at, meaning the bay'at of the women. In other words, there was no fighting involved. It didn't, because jihad hadn't been legislated yet. And so if you examine that bay'at, and it's also mentioned in the Quran itself, that, things were mentioned in that bay'ah, like not associating partners with the law, general Islamic things, not slandering, et cetera, et cetera. But I think for our contemporary situation, maybe it may include things like, I will not get married secretly. I, 'cause
You're not,
I'm not joining your community.
you're not, you're not,
I just did a live yesterday about secret marriages and all that type of stuff. We got a whole lot of things that are epidemic in our community. Sometimes brothers be marrying sisters that's still married to their previous husband, all kind of crazy stuff. So maybe our bayat will include, something like that. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. And as far as on a national level, uh, you have to clarify that with me. You mean
What I
connection
mean,
between imams, or
can you hear me?
yeah, I hear you.
What I mean by that, all right, I think, because I'm thinking of the whole picture.
Right.
We got several elements that we don't address. And that's why we having these forums, so that we can talk and our people can have access to some of the thinking of imams, right? Because in each of our individual communities, because people sometimes are only exposed to one imam and one thought, they don't get to see how sometimes we're on a collective mindset sometimes, right? So, all right, we're talking to the local. Now, nationally, we're going to have affiliations with other masajid, with other imams. We got brotherhoods. How does that look from our local masjid to when we expand it to all of us around the country? And specifically in our communities. Because it's going to look different when we go to immigrant communities.
Right. Okay, I see what you mean. I think it should be known that, certain communities have a specific affiliation. There's a camaraderie, there's a brotherhood, and those are intangible things. Tangible things, there's a collective financial pot that all communities are contributing to, right? Et cetera, et cetera. We're supporting each other's programs. When that community has a program, we making sure that, when you have a program, Masjid al-Mukmin is coming. Even if everybody can't come, we send at least a representative. The imam can't come, somebody else is coming. So, Imam Faheem has a business, we're supporting it. And if you're part of this community, you're expected to support that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When we speak like national issues, I'm not going to run and jump in front of the press without talking to y'all first. Just some random examples off the top of our head, so that when we speak with one voice.
Imam, go ahead. Same question.
yeah, if I can say something about this bear, I think Imam, Naeem, you really kind of hit it on the head. Each Imam, see, we really have to get to the point. I mean, it's good that we have the discussion, but for Black American Muslim communities in this country, they have been on a decline for a very, very, very long time. We've lost a lot of kids, a lot of people only Muslim for the first time. I've seen divorces, kids are gone. I mean, as far as Islam is concerned, the wife is out, the husband, everybody going just because of divorce. There's no more Islam. I've seen people leave communities. I've seen a lot. And so what Imam Naeem was saying, I really agree, is that, okay, Bay'ah is for however you need to do it, for whatever time you have. I mean, when we used to go out in Jamaat Tabligh, we used to have, it wasn't a Bay'ah, it was more like, okay, we going on Jola. All we doing is going around in the neighborhood. That's all we're doing. Is going around in the neighborhood to try to get Muslims to come to the masjid. Yet there was an emir. This brother's the emir. So we get out and so, and you want to go buy some potato chips. Okay, everyone stop at this store. Hey, let's check with the emir. Yes, Idris, you have to wait. Get your own water. You know how to get water, man. Stop fronting for the people. He fronting, man. He front. He want to be on camera. This fool, he want to be a teacher. No. So
I told you he's the clout chaser, man.
Yeah, he is, man. But he's talented though. He's talented, man. He was kicking out, because he's learning fat he had now. He was really doing really good this morning. No, imams we really have to be independent in how we do our communities, because number one, you're not going to please everybody, especially Black people, man. I'm just saying, I'm Black. Okay, it's hard to please Black people. people will tweak, and then you still have a lot of people who still think that immigrant, that foreign sheikh, you know, they still think like that. Not to say there's nothing to benefit. Knowledge is knowledge. Wherever you find it, you know, you benefit from it. You know, the prophet said that hikmah is dull to movement. So, but as far as bay'ah is concerned, because we're on a decline, we're losing. We're losing the battle. Okay, Muslims, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. We're losing this civilizational battle. But Allah keeps showing us glimpses of hope. Whoa, we get better. Another glimpse of hope. But as far as the battle is concerned, if you look at the way that you test thrivability of a child, you know, when it's born, you test whether it can breathe, whether it can eat, whether it can move. You know, you test these things to see if he's thriving. When you want to test to see whether a Muslim community is thriving, things you look at, are people paying zakat? Is there salat in the masjid? You know, you have to look at their children. Are they? If this guy has 6 children, 5 children, 3 children, and then you go, because 23 years is enough time that for you to, if you want to measure where your Muslim community is going, if you want to measure health and sickness, you look at 23 years, because 23 years is the length of the prophetic mission. And that's why after 23 years, you can say, okay, what are we looking at? And so when you start to see after 23 years, okay, he ain't Muslim, she ain't Muslim, his kids ain't Muslim, they left Islam, this is gone. Who's left? Old people in the masjid. So the way the imams have to go, in my view, each imam does whatever he needs to do, but on the issue of bay'ah, you really have to, however you implement it, you do it in what way is going to work for you. But at the same time, we have to keep in mind that, subhanAllah, we're in the last days. A lot of people just going to be dropping off this deen. So we want to get the people who don't want to drop off the deen. You want to get the people who are into the deen, who follows the knowledge, who wants to be a part of something. And listen, you think we doing bay'ah? Man, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about these churches. They doing bay'ah, every one of them. You go into a church, hey, John, you want to be a member of a church? Yeah, yes, I do, Pastor. Okay, here, let's fill this out. Get to this, get the social security number, get so-and-so, 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 and listen, and you're going to tithe 10% of your income, right? Yes, Pastor. How much you make? Well, I make about $700 a week. Okay, that's $70. So that's $70 a week that person's going to give to his church. $70, $280 a month. If you can afford it. Well, it's not, Pastor, you know what, I'm unemployed. Okay, you know what, so you can come in Saturdays and work for the church, right? Yes, because I have to give something to God. These people are tithing, making bay'ah. Muslims making bay'ah? Listen, you have to we do a little research. You got Sufi sects, and this is the part of Sufism that I agree with. Listen, when Sheikh Hassan Saysay was alive, rahimahullah, my father is a Tijani. My father practiced Sufism. Other people in my family practice. He's a Tijani. I mean, he's for many, I don't know how many, 34 years. But he was very close to Sheikh Hassan Saysay. And Sheikh Hassan Saysay was the head of a Tijani movement based out of Nigeria, Senegal. So when he used to come here, he would visit us. I mean, he would call up my father, and let me tell you, this dude had 1 million followers. That's what I'm trying to say. He had 1 million followers, not 10 followers, not 20 followers. He had 1 million followers, 1 million followers. And he was a good sheikh. He didn't offer the people a whole lot except spiritual guidance. But he came to America, and I've seen him many times, man. First of all, he always had an entourage of about 10 big black dudes in Brooks Brothers. That was clean.
He likes that.
No, seriously. That's how he rolled. He had his stuff on, boom. But he was a beautiful sheikh, mashallah. I mean, he taught you know. I mean, he was. You can feel. But I'm just saying, they have a group out of Turkey. If you remember a couple years ago when there was like an attempted coup in Turkey. There was attempted coup. Remember that name? Okay, attempted coup. And the dude that they accused to be masterminding it is this sheikh. I mean, he's a beardless dude, suit wearing, but he live in America. He lives somewhere out in Western Pennsylvania. He has a commune. Man, he got 1 million followers. At least he got 1 million followers. He has 1 million followers. So when they want to do something, they want to build something. Listen, when Turks want to build a masjid, they don't do no fundraisers. You don't never see, the Turks, no. Hey, they say, we're going to build a masjid. Bam. They built the masjid outside Washington, D.C. It was like $100 million. $100 million. $100 million. Take up a whole square block like a big university. It's a masjid. And people have bay'ah. So when they try to do things, when they're imams and leaders around the world, Muslims try to do, even whether it's a charitable project, even if it's working on a political issue, it's working on some kind of defense issues. They have, they have clerics in Iraq. I mean, I'm not talking about fighting, but they have this one Iraqi, Muqtadar as-Sadr, very famous. Look him up, Muqtadar as-Sadr. It's his name. They're Shia. He got 30,000 just on the military side. All got bay'ah. 30,000. You got 30,000 army. Then you have how many millions of people? That's the imam. It doesn't mean he run this show by himself, but it means you really can get things done. You get things done when you have critical mass. When you have people have a leader, that's just common. That's just simple Islam. Simple Islam is to have a leader. Simple Islam. That's as simple as Islam is to have somebody leading the salat. Simple. Who's the imam? So-and-so. Who's the emir? Just right there. Hey man, we having an issue, man. Me and this brother don't get along. Where the imam at? When we grew up in the Dawla Islam, that's one thing we did have. Somebody have a dispute? Where the imam? Get the imam, come to the masjid for Isha. Okay, what's going on? He hit his side. You know what? In fact, we used to have qadis in the Dawla Islam. There was always a person in every Dawla Islam community who was a qadi. He was a judge. Now, he may not have had degrees in Sharia, but they would take the basic fiqh book to find the information. So we don't know, okay, he's the qadi, he would look it up, and sometimes he may be wrong, but at least that dispute was settled. Imams always used to settle disputes. Walk in the masjid, what's going on? Man, we having an argument about what day the Eid starting. Man, Eid starting tomorrow. Boom, case closed. I have a bay'ah to the imam here, even though he's my cousin. I still have a bay'ah with him. Since I got here. Hey man, this is our community. Blah blah blah. This the imam. Man, I got the bay'ah. Even though he consult with me on anything big, he's like, Sheikh, what do you think? Sheikh, what do you think? Sheikh, what do you think? And we are family. So it's even different. But there's a bay'ah because there has to be some kind of reciprocity of agreement that, okay, as long as I'm here in Toledo, Ohio, man, I'm down right here. Yeah. Man, can you go to so-and-so meeting? Yeah. You going, man? Sometimes I don't like to go to meetings. He said, and I'll ask him, hey, man, are you going? He said, I'm going. I said, do you want me to go? He said, yeah, I want you to go. I'll go. If he says, well, man, I don't know if you want to, I'm going to go, because I don't like meetings. But that's because of a bay'ah. Because of a bay'ah I have with that imam. I have a bay'ah with Imam Abdurrahim. It's a bay'ah. I have a bay'ah with my dad.
Question. So, let's we'll grab.
Wait. Let me finish. I'm just saying that to say that agreements is something that is masnoon. This is in the Sunnah. This is in the Sharia. This is something that there's no khilaf. There's no dissenting opinion about whether or not a Muslim need to be obligated to something just by virtue of your Muslim. There's no dissenting opinion in Islam whatsoever of a person not having a leader. None. There's no opinion of any scholar. No scholar in the history of Islam has said, you know what, you can just be, you don't need a leader, man. Nobody says that. So it's just a matter of how you want to formulate your leadership. And going back to Imam Naeem's point of what works best for you. That's and Allah knows best.
We're coming to the finish line here. I don't want to keep the people up all night, so I want to shoot a couple questions that came up on the in the chat. One from our brother and beloved Imam Malik Robinson. He said, and I'm a summarize. This is a long question. He said, do we ever see it being a realization in our lifetimes that we have our own community in different cities where we have the masjid, the marketplaces, and an exclusive area like Chinatown, like Little Israel, like Little Italy, that they have. Anyone, y'all want to jump into that?
If I may, inshallah.
If you got to be short, because everybody got to leave
No,
now.
I'm gonna be very, very right because that's my nephew and he live in Philadelphia, right? You go up there, Roosevelt Boulevard. You go up there, Roosevelt Boulevard, and like homing, I forgot the name of that masjid. They have a masjid. They have a little marketplace, and the bulk of those people they live up there in the Northeast. They all bought houses up in that neighborhood, right here in Philly, right in Philly. Right, I forgot the name of the Imam, but I know if you go up Roosevelt Boulevard in Philadelphia and you get to like Coleman Street up around there, there's a masjid up there on like Coleman. It's an immigrant masjid. They have an Imam, they have a shura, they got a halal store right next to the masjid, and they got people who got apartment buildings up there, and they have, I don't know the size of their community. I think it's over 1,000 people. It's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you have people that broke off from that and built another one further up, Roosevelt Boulevard. This is right in the city of Philadelphia where Muslims live. It's just a matter of choice. It's a choice you make. You have to make a choice. Okay, if you want stuff to happen, man, you got to go in your pocket, man. You want an imam, you got to pay that imam. You have a shura. You can have elections. You can have elections for the imam if you want to, if you write it into your law. But you can't be a Muslim sitting on the side doing nothing, paying nothing, not have no allegiance to nobody, have no imam, no amir. All you're doing is weighing in on stuff and expect stuff to get done. Islam does not work like that. It just doesn't work like that. It just does not work like that. You have to follow the calculus of the religion. Certain things produce certain things, and so African Americans, for them to produce it, you have to start with the basic building blocks of community. Get yourself an imam. Get an imam. Try to find an imam. Get people, you have to have somebody has to be in charge. It's just that we're used to everybody doing their own thing, right? Someone said you got the same thing in West Philadelphia out by 69th Street. You have immigrant communities who come to America and establish. You go to Olympia, Washington, you got immigrant communities from the Cham community. They came, they bought all these acres of land, built about 30, 40 houses. They said, "Listen, we just gonna build a damn neighborhood." Build a neighborhood. Boom. You got even here in our, you can go to Hamtramck where like the Muslims took over the whole city. They took over the city. I mean, not they took over. They came in. They bought houses. They got the Masjid in Hamtramck. It was a big school. Used to be they have their own school. I mean, but the Masjid is like this big, huge building. You go there, it's like 150 people there for Salat al-Isha. Right? They have an imam. They have a council. They have social services. They make the choice. When I was in California, you would go to Lodi. Yeah, Lodi, California. It's a farming town. Many Pakistani, right? Well, of course, they got the family thing. They got the generational continuity. You walk in there after Maghrib, you got about 100 little boys memorizing Quran in there. You go for Salat al-Maghrib, Salat al-Isha. The masjid is packed every day. Everybody lives close to the masjid. They made a choice.
Question, Imam, while hold up, Imam. Let's get you more focused because they're raising this issue. So we understand what a lot of other communities is doing. But right. The question is more related. Do you think it's possible? Not possible, because it's possible if you do what we're talking about.
It's possible.
But do you think we're going to see it? And what do we need to do now to realize that? And what are we doing that's preventing us from doing that, from seeing that? That's maybe a better question. Let me let Imam Naeem jump in, and then you come back. Go ahead, Imam Naeem.
Alhamdulillah. My history. When I came home I took shot in jail, prison. I came home to Masjid Taqwa, Brooklyn, New York. When I came home, I saw the masjid on the corner, all these halal shops. Now, to my mind, as a relatively new Muslim, this is like Mecca, Medina, and everything. As I became more ingrained in the community, and learned the history of the community, I realized that the African Americans, established the masjid. They had an imam, and they cleaned up the area. But they kind of like, in Imam Siraj's terms, he says a lot. They kind of like dropped the ball because the immigrants came in and brought up a lot of properties around it, like immigrant Muslims and a lot of Jewish people. So the African Americans who started the community cannot even afford in 2020 to live near the masjid.
Right.
Right. And so I think the way that it needs to be done, just looking at, the history and the experience I learned from my home community, is that, in whatever city we're in, even if we're already established, but we're talking about this holistic community where we are more than just a masjid. We live around a masjid, we have businesses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We may have to relocate to another area in the same city where the houses are more affordable for the people we got that have given bayat to us, the people we know are committed. Not the people who might come, the people who said they will come eventually, but the people, every community, the people know who makes up their community, what their mean income is. And so, we might have to make decisions based upon that. Maybe where the masjid is at right now, maybe everybody can't afford to live there, but there's some area where we can turn something into a masjid and we can buy up the area near it based upon what we have. So I think every community has to make that decision based upon, the demographics and the type of money they have, coming into their community. But it's definitely possible because it's been done before. But just various communities have dropped the ball or lost focus, didn't complete it. But it's been done.
Well,
wait a minute, Imam Faheem, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can be done. Those communities, as Imam Malik mentioned, I mean, this is a concept I think I mentioned last time. We talking about this concept of having a Muslim town, in every city that we live in. If we're not going to be concentrated in one area altogether as Muslims, each area has a Muslim town, and all those groups that did it took money. It's going to be a concentrated effort, to put some money together. And, I mean, we can see it in 20 years from now. We start now, or even less, I mean, it don't take much. I mean, we put, like Imam Naeem was saying, that we have somewhere there's a central, something similar to a Beitul Mal as close as we can get, where it's everybody who's Muslim in that area or that state, they're putting money in this pot, and it goes to expenses, what I mean? And then we have a board of people that they get paid, and they take care of all of the stuff that we need to take. And that could happen in every state, but we carve out an area, fix it up. I mean, it can be done if we want to do it, If we want to do it, it can be done. Bi'ithnillah.
Imam Luqman,
I'm gonna keep it short.
3 minutes to answer that question.
No, listen, this is a wide topic, and I'm looking at some of the
I
comments.
know, but you make it in 3 minutes.
And people are making really good points. But here's the thing is, okay, certain things are just destructive to Islam, period. It's just start off. You have to have leadership. You have to. You can't demonize, generally when communities start demonizing their leadership, they already got another building. We say, well, yeah, he's no good, and we got somebody to replace him right here. Muslim from all over the world, whether it's Cambodia, whether it's Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, different places in the Middle East, whether it's Syrian, whether it's Turkish, what have you. Somebody just mentioned from Philadelphia that by 69th and Market, they got communities, they got stores and little plazas. Of course, they have the business people to come in. But I'm telling you, for Black Americans, for Blacks, period, okay, we got too much stuff that we condemn that are essential for our survival. So we are too much into a self-destructive mode. We have things that condemn people now condemning marriage. Like, how the hell you gonna condemn marriage? Okay, condemn polygamy, whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, leave it alone. But no, I'm against polygamy, and you're not even married. Like, dude, okay, like really, you have to understand there's a psychological lapses that we have. Like, that's a psychological, the moral dysfunction that we have. Okay, so if you want, now, do I think that we'll see that in America? I just have trust in the law. But if you look on paper, if you look at the statistics, if you look at the bare statistics, Black American Muslims used to be 33% of America's Muslim population. Now they're only 13%. So you're only 13% of the population, and you're declining, and immigrant communities are growing. And so they estimate, and that figure comes from verified research. If they estimate that by the year 2030, Black American Muslims may only be about 7%, maybe 5% of the population of Muslims in America. That our population base is dwindling because our children aren't even staying in Islam. Because and one of the largest reasons that your kids won't stand in Islam is that when you're not part of a Jama'ah. That's one of the principal reasons. The principal reason. It don't matter who's the Imam. Next the Imam. You can have a dog on, just grab somebody's nephew, make him the Imam, and support him. Whoever his Imam is, support the Imam. If he's a good Imam, man, you damn well better be supporting that Imam, because he has the ability to fight. Not that he does, not the only one who has to fight for you, but he has the title. He's the title. Imam, boom. Imam, boom. That's just life, because we haven't developed our communities to a point where we have multiple positions. You go to an immigrant community, man, Imam, just go to the Masjid. You got this person in charge of this. This is director of education, youth director, the political guy who deals with the city, the activist guy, the guy that paint the signs, the guy that's, the IT guy. Every Masjid got an IT guy. We got IT issues. Oh, brother, Amin got that. So we just have one position in our communities, the Imam. And he ain't even getting paid. Do you understand? I mean, that's like crazy.
Imam, let me chime in, because
so, let me finish my sentence. So, in short, we are on a decline. We're declining, and we're headed towards extinction. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is God, and there's always hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's my feeling. That's my true feeling. I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna
Imam Munab, I promise you, as long as I'm alive and I have a supporting group, and I got a strong supporting group, they love me, they stick with me, you're going to get some mic time, I promise you that.
No, listen, we all have our platforms.
Right.
I'm just saying that you might want to even take more than an hour, because it's a real issue.
No, we are more than an hour. You late. Don't forget you owe $200.
No,
right? We're almost an hour and a half.
It's a long story, man. But
all right, check this out.
Go ahead.
And I want to jump on that question, because one of these things that I want from these platforms and from these discussions, and we took that name, Black Imams Roundtable, right, for a purpose. Because when I hear us, and I love, and I gotta qualify this, because a lot of my students are getting pounded over the last month, and a lot of my students are immigrants and foreigners, and I feel sorry for them, because I know they're good brothers. They learn, they travel, they come in the Black community, they sleep in the hood, they spend their money, they're down. Especially a lot of second generation immigrants who were born here, went to school here, and they love Imam Amin. So I just gotta make a disclaimer. I'm not talking about you, so stop getting hurt. Right, because I'm not talking about you. I know you're down.
But let me put this out, though. Many immigrants, here's what we have to understand, okay? Many immigrant Muslims understand this conversation. They're not hurt. They don't mind. They get it, and they down. They with us. We have immigrants in our community. I have immigrant students. Many immigrants, we talk about Black empowerment and stuff. They're like, listen, they're like, yeah, okay, we know you ain't talking about me, and they're down. So we have to really rid our fear of talking about our issues in the way they need to be talked about, because believe me, people understand. People who get all offended, Imam, you're against the Arab. They many times them the racist jokers, man. And I ain't got no, I don't really have no big heart for racist Muslim, man. Seriously, once you start coming, but most immigrant Muslims who are Muslim, who are believers, who are steadfast, who understand these are educated people, many of them. They understand the black issues. They understand when we talk revolution. They understand, and they're down. You turn around, they still there. I talked like this for the last 27 years, and I was Imam of a Masjid that was 60% immigrant, 60%. They heard me black. Well, they heard me screaming and holler, but they understand. Imam, we get it. We understand. So don't second guess some of these immigrants because they do understand.
Right. So, but here's my point. I just mentioned that because I've been getting millions of calls, and these are people who love me. You know what I mean? So I gotta make them understand. We're talking about issues that are real, and if it don't apply, let it fly.
You gotta raise the consciousness, man.
All right, but now here's my point. Why I said that is because what I get tired of us doing personally, stop comparing ourselves what others were doing when in our culture that was known in black Muslim culture before, building communities. That's what, if you go from whatever people understood to be Islam in the black community, from the nations, from the Moorish Science Temple, from the Ansars, from the Dar movement, and on and on and on, Beitul Quraysh and Nur, on and on, black people knew how to build communities. What happened, that I believe, was integration and Wahhabism. I'm gonna be honest. This is
Wahhabism, yeah. That was a big look.
Wahhabism came and told us your Islam is invalid. We accepted that, and we threw everything out with it, even the stuff that was worship.
That is true.
We threw it all out until we became a band of dysfunctional so-called Sunni Muslims who can't tie their shoes together. Why do I say that? I grew up, as y'all know, many don't know this, I grew up in the Ansar law community. And in that leadership, under Dr. York, whatever you want to call him, take the bad stuff out. We had our own schools. Every community had a school.
Yeah.
Didn't go to public schools. We had our own businesses. Every man who was able went out and brought back $100 a day. I was in Brooklyn. We had about 300 peddlers out on the street, and all y'all from the inner city, y'all know y'all saw the Ansars, right? Every man, he brought in $100 a day. So just in one community, it's like Brooklyn, in Brooklyn, you're talking about bringing in $30,000 a day, 365 days a week, no days off. Eid, we had Eid earlier, then get your butt out there and go get that money. But guess what? No one was complaining about that because we had a mission.
Wow.
We had loyalty. We had that term of allegiance. This is our leader. This is our community. This is what we're going to do, right? And it was an understanding. So that's just the peddling money. Then we had our own stores, our own restaurants, our own laundromats, right? And then I give him in New York, he was the first Black American to establish a recording studio of top line. When I used to be in guard in Brooklyn, I used to see Patti LaBelle, Grandmaster Flash. Jay-Z got his start in the Ansar community. That's where Jay-Z started doing his music. Go to his early videos, you'll see him, and I used to stay, I lived on between Bushwick and Hart. I was right there. And Jay-Z, I remember him riding on his bike, his Jazz, that rapper Jazz, those who know him, he was Jay-Z's mentor. They lived 2 doors from me in Brooklyn. And that's where all them little groups in there, they used to record in the Ansar community. Forget the doctrine, but all the stuff, they had their own land, 8 square blocks, all up from Broad Street all the way down to Green Street, down Bushwick through Hart. They had their own buildings, schools, everything. And in Philadelphia, where you from,
Yeah, yeah.
Thompson Street, all the way
52nd
up
Street.
towards
They had their
Gerard,
own there.
all the back.
Yep.
And here's my question. The nation had the same thing around the country, right? My question becomes to this. When did black people can't provide for themselves? Where the hell we learn that from?
You know
Right?
where we got from?
And guess what? Wait a minute. Stop. When I was in the Ansars, that's where I learned Arabic. All of our kids spoke Arabic.
Yep.
Every single one of them. In fact, in the buildings, we weren't allowed to speak English. And it was all black people. So what happened? And I'm saying, what happened to us, whereas black people, we became inferior to everyone else? I really, and that's why I say, when we learned that, when our religious authority became other than ourselves. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah, and my name's ready to jump in. Then you come back and look mine. I'm warming the heat up.
no, listen, I like the history, man. You know I love
Man.
history, bro.
I was laughing so hard because Brother Farouk said you had the green room on lock. and subhanAllah, if you know the history of the
Guess what?
Ansar, you know what the green
They
room
had a green room, right? We don't even got a room now. Go ahead.
One of the patterns I noticed is that in the general community in the United States, I'm sure it's like this all over the world, but we speaking about America. In the United States, whenever, for example, you talk about something that affects black people vis-a-vis the general community, right? What I've noticed is that in a Muslim community is a similar parallel. Like when you're dealing with black Muslims vis-a-vis the rest of the Muslims. And just like how you was making a point how, you know, we had all of these things, even with wrong Akida, right Akida, all that. We had these things. All the movements had what you mentioned. And then you said that integration, we kind of like lost all of that. And it's the same thing with the black community. Even under segregation, Jim Crow, you had Tulsa, Oklahoma's, Rosewoods, you had all of that stuff. So it's a parallel in a black non-Muslim community. And so, like you said, when we start allowing people to intermingle with us, what have you, because we have a disposition, because we have this self-hatred, we have a disposition to defer to the other, then we lost everything we had. And this is one of the reasons why I believe we need to have, at some point, at least amongst us and those who are affiliated with us, we need to have terms of engagement with regards to the immigrant community. You know, there needs to be a, yes, we are Muslim, we are from the Ummah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but socially, as far as how we interact with them, there needs to be a specified terms and protocols of engagement, because we know from the history that you just mentioned that if these protocols aren't in place, we're going to lose. Just like the general black community lost everything it had, even under worse conditions in segregation and Jim Crow.
Imam, I agree with that. And the thing about it is that you know, when you start to deal with these issues, there is going to be pushback. It is going to be difficult in the beginning, you know, especially and Imam, you know, even when you get to a point when a black Imam talks frankly in an immigrant setting with their imams, where he don't laugh at the joke, he don't laugh at the Bilal story, where he stops. No, you know, Imam, I don't think that's funny, you know. And it's brother, no, you know. When he says, and when you stop and say, no, seriously, we're gonna have this conversation, they get incensed. Y'all know that. They're like, even like that dude on what's that thing with the guy Sergeant Schultz on and that Hogan's Hero, like that captain, even like that, you know. And so that's just the growing pains. Listen, locally here in Toledo, Ohio, you know, most of the Masjid decided to close their masjid for the pandemic. Our masjid was the only one that stayed open, alhamdulillah. And there was a fiqh decision. I don't, you know, good fiqh is good fiqh. Closing the masjid was was a fiqh decision that I can understand, although I didn't agree with it totally, but I get it. But we had a situation where I got a call from a local Muslim leader. I mean, like, like it called me late at night too and said, "Brother, why did you? Who told you?" And it went all bad from there. Now that's called growing pains. Okay, but I'm telling you, for many immigrant imams and leaders and boards of directors, this is all difficult for them because it exposes something within our religious culture that they try to cover up all the time, which is racism and racial bigotry. Okay, and the influence that we have, you got to keep in mind that we have dozens of foreign religious influence that have crept in mainly through Salafism, opened up the door. You had people.
Imam, you on my platform, so we gotta call it what it is. We're not going to sugarcoat it. Wahhabism. Don't say Salafi. Say Wahhabism.
It was Wahhabism.
Salafism. We're going to be historically correct.
That's very true. They renamed it for the 80s. Because when I was in Saudi, it was Wahhabism.
Say that again. Wait a minute. They didn't hear you. Say that again.
They renamed it for the 80s because it was always called Wahhabism. And when I was in Saudi Arabia, there was no such thing as Salafism. When I studied with the Sheikh bin Baz, there was no reference to Salaf. He referred to the Salaf, but he never referred to Salafiyah. He maybe once or twice in reference to the scholars of the past, but later on they had to repackage Salafiyah specifically for I think poor communities, Black American Muslims, because at that time, you got to keep in mind that when Salafiyah hit in America, and I wrote a book about this, but when it hit in America, that was a time where the Wafdi Muhammad community, the community under Jamil al-Amin, and even Nation of Islam were having talks. We were having Black-only talks about coming together. I remember some of the meetings. I remember meeting with representative from Imam Abdullah Farrakhan, Dr. Abdul Muhammad. Yeah, he was. I remember being at a meeting in Cleveland where he was present. Yeah, we're trying to see if we can come together. And so when that happened, then they really put billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars into pumping Salafism into the city, because at its core, Salafism is like you had all these guys went overseas and came back with their distinct objective. When you go back, start tearing up the imams. So you start to split communities, and it really gave people. I mean, people used to have respect for the imams, but when you take away the respect for your leader, you ain't got no other damn leader. I mean, like, damn, even President Trump, there's people that don't respect him, but there's people that's down for him.
But Imam, you know why I'm highlighting? Because you're making some strong points. And as we talked earlier, you've experienced, before all this movement, you was overseas and you were with people when it was the way it was overseas in Saudi Arabia. And here's a catch. Reason why not to disdain nobody, because we shouldn't do that no matter what they are, right? We got to get out of that habit, especially our people. But here's what I'm saying. Sometimes history repeats itself. If you don't learn from it, you're going to repeat it. If we study, and this is brief, we can have a whole nother talk on this. I'm just making the point because you just said it. Why I don't say Salafi, and I don't recommend no one say Salafi, because it's a way of dismissing history. It's a way of covering history. You said when Salafism came to America, one of the first things it did was disregard leadership and imamate in the American community.
Across the board.
Would everyone agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's study Wahhabism. When the advent of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, what was the first thing they did throughout the Islamic world? Cancel Muslim leadership. That's historically a fact.
That was the basis. That was the basis by which they convinced the people to go into Mecca, because here you had the sheriffs of Mecca and the tribesmen, even in Saudi. They was like, dude, we can't go in Mecca killing cats. And he said, man, these cats ain't legit. That was part of the argument.
Is that not what happened in the Black community?
Yeah.
These cats are on bid'ah, not legit. we can do whatever we want.
Yes, this
To the point that they said, I'm gonna give it to you, Imam Naeem, that even from them, we never heard this. Even when we did get into fights, because fights have, you ain't never heard walking around Muslims talking about other Muslims' blood is lawful. Yeah. That's the Wahhabi stuff, which they did in Saudi Arabia, which is in their books, which is, me and you got a network on this. I got some stuff for you to write. All right, go ahead, Imam Naeem.
I'm sure
Imam Luqman.
I'm sure all of you know this, but I just want to state this for the record on this video for the regular common people to know. I don't know about now if it's still going on, but like when they first exploded, the students came back and first exploded on the scene in the early 90s. They used to have to write reports back to the different institutions they was connected with back in Saudi. And part of their reports would like detail, okay, who's not on, you know, who are some of your challenges? Like who's other charismatic figures that's in your area? Like for example, if you had like an imam from the Dar in the city and everybody's about bay'ah and everything, that would go in a quarterly report back to Saudi. And so then they would send scholars to that area to do a lecture series on how bay'ah is bid'ah, for example. So this was an organized, concerted effort by you know the Saudi, the Wahhabi institutions and everything. This was a concerted attack on the black community, and I've spoken to some Wahhabi leaders, and they told me this from their own mouth. Like I'll just throw a name out there. I met and talked with Sheikh Faisal, and you know we had chicken and chips or fish and chips. I forgot what we had in the UK together, and he told me that this is what they had to do. They had to write a report on all the non-so-called Salafi / Wahhabis about what they were on, or what, you know, are they, how much, what type of numbers they're drawing in, what is about them that is drawing these numbers. Then they would send sheikhs and have platforms and lectures and everything to undo or to counteract, you know, their competition. So this was an organized and concerted effort from them.
Go ahead, back to you, Imam Luqman. I hate to cut you off on that, but some stuff we got to address, because if we're gonna build, we got to be honest and factual. Go ahead.
Gotta be honest. Yeah. Well, just to Imam Naeem's point, there was a reason for all that, because you gotta keep in mind that like 80% or 70% of the immigrants in America arrived after 1970. They arrived after 1970, right? It's only 50 years down the road, and the whole idea was to replace anything of Islam in America with a white immigrant, foreign, you know, sort of Islam, because they knew they would have second generations. They're already classified as white. It would give them a hold on the community. So it would give immigrants a different hold into America. So the idea was that the black American Muslim, this is the principal idea that was pushed forth. Black people are not deserving of representing Islam, Allah. They niggas, they don't deserve that. They don't deserve the prestige of Islam. We are immigrants. We from Islam. We're white. We're culture, right? And so at the same time that the Salafiyah was undermining black American communities, right, they were given, the same sheikhs were given a pass to immigrant communities to flourish and to grow. They would make a fatwa about holidays. Get off of that, Idris. They would make a fatwa about going to birthday party. I've seen you go to a Quran Q&A. They used to have a fatwa about birthdays. Birthdays is haram. Haram. You can't. But then they would get people from the MSA asking about participating in the cultural affairs. Yes. Y'all getting over on me. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. You use my iPad. No, don't worry. So, but at the same time, they were the same scholars. You keep in mind that you had endowments. You have endowments now. You have chairs at Georgetown worth about, I think they gave the Saudi or the Gulf states gave $20 million to Georgetown, to John Esposito. He runs the Islamic studies program out of the least he used to. They gave $20 million to Georgetown, $10 million to Harvard, $10 million to Yale, $10 million to Stanford, $10 million to Princeton universities. You could just look it up online yourself. You can see all these millions of dollars that were given by the Arab world to these universities to promote a certain narrative about Islam and Muslims in America. At the same time, undermining the black communities. So because they figured that after a while, ain't gonna be nothing left in the black communities, and the only people who's gonna be standing on to be immigrant communities. That's why when they come here and raise money, and they come here and push money in the community, they don't push the dollars into the black American Muslim communities. You had different financial organizations that are still going, like I forgot. I can't. They fund Masjid. If you want to build a masjid in America, you can go to this fund. I forgot what's the name of it. Everybody knows somebody. But they'll buy the masjid for you. They'll buy it cash, and you pay them. But you have to subscribe to the Wahhabi theory. You got to fast when they fast and stuff like that. Because I was I raised money with Masjid on that. That were into that, right? So at the same time, they were denigrating the black American Muslim Sunni communities. Denigrate them. Don't give them no funding. Don't even think about Imam having the money, because that makes him mobile. That means he can talk. That means he can get around. That means he can show up at conferences. I'm here. What'd you say? No. Make sure that Imam has got nothing. He just, or that community is poor. But at the same time, question. So let me just say this. At the end of the day, what do you see on our landscape? You see multi-million-dollar masajid all around the country. And you see little, black Muslims struggling. That was design. That was by design.
Let me ask you a question. Because people, and that's why I said this could be a whole nother discussion. And that wasn't my intent. But my intent was, in raising that issue, is so we don't mix things. Right? Because when we mix things, that's keeping us where we at. The same game ran on us in a different name. So I'm saying, let's stop the games so we can get it right. And here's my other thing. A lot of people, and I have to be honest, a lot of us sympathize with our oppressor. That's why we stay in a state of oppression. No, seriously. A lot of us will say there's no such thing as white supremacy, while the white man got his knee on your neck.
That is true.
And the same thing we don't have patience to deal with the things that are hurting us.
Yeah.
If you look at every black movement who refuse to follow that narrative or take movement, those black movements were successful in all the stuff we're trying to talk about. Yeah. If you look at Imam Muhammad, right? Rahimahullah, he refused to follow that strain, and his community some of them are still making it today.
Thank God.
Right?
Thank God you didn't.
But even though, so here's my thing is that I think we need to address things that have hurt our communities so we can get that off of us and move forward. So if the first thing you want to move forward, if you don't learn your deen properly, you ain't going nowhere. So if you still carrying ideas and beliefs and convictions and practices that are designed to stunt your growth, I don't know how you're going to go forward. If you understand what I'm saying.
Man, I love hearing you talk, man. I like when you get fired up, but
I'm just trying to, because we want to skip learning and then go to success. You can't be a businessman if you don't learn business. And if everyone's teaching you how not to do business, how are you ever going to do it? I don't get it. How are we ever going to develop strong Islamic communities when the very thing we're using to do that is designed to destroy it?
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then, that's why you've noticed everywhere this doctrine, it hasn't worked in our communities. Never. Because it's designed to implode anyway from within. So if we don't address things that's hurting us, how are we going to go forward? Like you and all of us know, there is no way. Imam Faheem mentioned it, and I don't want to be on the soapbox too long. Imam Faheem mentioned it. one of the biggest problems for the development of his community is the presence of people giving those ideas to stop his growth. Imam Faheem, can you feed into the, can you elaborate on that? Hate to put you on the spot, but I love to put you on the spot. So.
I see. Yeah, I mentioned earlier how in our area, you know, we got a lot of Muslims who are just displaced, and you know, they don't even know that they Wahhabi by default. You know, I mean, you got all these glossy, colory books, and you know, and they'll be with you, come to your community, but then you know they still believe in this Trinitarian Tawheed and you know and stuff like that, and argue up and down about it. And you know, they certain personalities they think that they you know major you know scholars, and if you show them something where okay, when you talk about Akida is the most important science, well, this scholar that you follow and you know emulate has major blunders. This person that you say is a scholar has major blunders, and you know it takes a lot of energy sometimes to deprogram people. But yeah, that is a big problem. And then when no one wants to stay committed or you know just to stay focused on really studying, so you can undo some of that stuff. Because you know in some of our classes we had some students, they were just like taken aback, and I'm looking at them like taken aback. This is basic Akida 101. Stuff that they've never heard, you know, and we, you know, I'm not even capable of doing anything advanced, you know what I mean? So you're doing basic stuff about Akida, and it's a problem, you know, and we do got to diffuse that, you know, it's a big problem. And in this area, in the Northeast region, it's a big problem, you know.
Well,
it's a
once
big
people
problem.
start to see people are spilling blood now, because listen, just from political, just from a civilizational perspective, if you are immigrant especially from failed Muslim societies, you come to America, you look white. If you could get rid of the accent, you could damn near pass for white. A lot of you, right? But you see Islam as a definite end. Islam as a power base for for your presence in the country. You're Muslim, Islam, Masjid. That's like our little, a little like little castles. It's the Masjid and it's National Islamic organizations, whether it's ISNA, whether it's ICNA, whether it's CARE. We're your protector. We're the army. They're all immigrant based. So the more you can do to isolate and to trivialize and to marginalize Black American Muslims, the better, because eventually you're still bringing in more immigrants. You still got people coming in. You still got hundreds of thousands of people. So it's not like we're getting, right now, dollars at a standstill. For every 10 people who come into Islam, 10 people leave Islam. And then you don't have generational continuity. They know each one is, so you might have, say you have like 1,000 Muslims in one Black neighborhood, or say 100 Muslims in one Black neighborhood. They're all separated by 10 different spheres of thought. They all got to shake over. Every 10 people got to shake overseas. This guy, you ain't never even seen this joker, not to knock that down, but when you have those spheres of influence, and so it's the same thing as bringing Jesus, into the church and say, look at that white Jesus. Yeah. Even when we still try to lean on African sheikhs, well, they're few and far between, and the Africans aren't as keen either as far as lifting up the Black American. They're like y'all niggas are your own, because and so if I was a conquering nation and I want to conquer a society or get my input in the society as a Muslim, yeah, I would say, okay, let's marginalize these Negroes because their Islam is too pure. They're pure. Allah brought them into the religion. They come into us. That's like the highest level of Iman. That's the highest level of Iman. If Allah brings, when you come into Islam, that's why your sins are forgiven. That's why your whole slate is clean. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala picks someone, and like Allah says, whoever Allah wants to guide. So when Allah guides, like if Allah takes a whole group of people, Black slaves, and say, hey, I want y'all to be Muslim by the hundreds, by the thousands, that is like Allah is saying, I want there to be a new civilization of people who are pure of all these diseases that was in the deen, of all the isms. Because when you come into Islam, and I've given many shahadas, I know y'all have too, they come in with nothing but la ilaha illallah. That's it. That's it. Man, that is danger. You got somebody coming with la ilaha illallah, pure, Allah just guided that person to Islam. Like, man, I've seen people overnight. I've seen your brother, man, go in the trash can and find a Quran in the trash. Somebody threw out in the trash, and then come to the masjid. Man, I found this book in the joint. I want to be this, and came to the masjid. Like, whoa, who does that but Allah? So when you got a lot of people like that, man, that's dangerous, man. That's dangerous because the Black American Muslims really start to have their, man, listen, if we just took the 40 hadith, man, Quran and Sunnah, and just said, that's dangerous. So, of course, there would be some kind of effort to trivialize those people, to marginalize those people, to support the demise of those communities. And that's what's been done. I mean, forget about white racism. Whitey will help you go to Islam more than other with this immigrant. Not necessarily all immigrants, but I'm just saying this is a concerted effort to marginalize Black American Sunni Muslims, especially because once you start, and that's what I'm going to say. We're
going to close out. I'll give each of us 2 minutes. Imam, you first. 2 minutes, you on clock. and I love you. No. You gotta close it up, inshallah.
You and I had this conversation. We know how deep this stuff goes.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while.
It's gonna be a minute.
Hit the 2 minutes, Imam.
I just want to say, inshallah, just keep on having these forums, man, because people are listening, and eventually we will have to have some more discussion because there is a way out. There's always a way out when there is a law. There's always hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we have to realize that we're heading towards a stage of activity where we're going to need certain type of people, and everybody's not going to get it. So, but inshallah, we make dua for everybody that we all guides us.
Quickly, since you didn't take your 2 minutes, what is the most important thing that we need to focus on and find an immediate solution for? Quickly,
congregation and family. Congregation, family, marriage. Those 3 things. You have to have a congregation, man. You just can't you can beat up your man. What? Beat him up, talk about him, whatever, man. But pay him, have one. Have a congregation. Have people. And the marriage thing, we had to change the discourse about marriage. People talking against marriage. People talking against polygamy. Like, what? Excuse me. I mean, so you have to change that. And then you have, you have feminism, also the feminism, that's something else. But those are those things. Congregation, the imamate, marriage, those are the 3 things, I think. I mean, there's a lot to be done, but those are 3 things if I would take three issues.
Imam Naeem, 2 minutes, inshallah. You got to put on your microphone.
Shukran. I was about to go in. Abdullah. No, I'm sitting here reading the comments, and a lot of people are saying things like, okay, what's the solution? What's the solution? What's the way forward? And I think we've touched on it, and we talked about bayat and becoming a part of being accountable to a leader. That includes accountability both ways. When you have a leader, you're accountable to him, he's accountable to you. There's stipulations on both sides. It's a give and take. So if you don't already have that, you need to establish that. Even if you're in an area where there is no physical masjid, you need to gather people, even if it's only 3 people or 3 families, and make that happen. And in that process, one of the first things that you do after you come together is you appoint someone to be your leader, and you begin learning and teaching together, and also begin praying together, even if that's in someone's house or in the masjid. And so if we want some concrete things to do, this is one of the things that you can start with. And I'll conclude by saying that I love communicating and talking and roundtabling and everything with you, my fellow imams. Y'all give me energy, and whenever we hook up, you increase my hemma a lot, and so I'm personally
Same here.
enjoying this. And also, I've spoken to several elders in my community who've seen the last video, and you all have motivated and encouraged them, and they're very excited about this dialogue as well. So, alhamdulillah, may Allah bless this effort.
Quickly, Imam Naeem, could you give us the most important thing you think we need to be working on and find solutions very soon?
Okay, I'll just be more specific on what I already said. I think there needs to be an agreement with everyone in every single community how much money they're going to be paying or contributing every single month or what have you. Because we can talk all day, but if we don't know how much money we working with on a consistent basis, then we just talking. So I think every imam, every community should know how much hard cash they are bringing in on a monthly basis. That way, you can begin to project and make plans on, establishing these communities and these different integrals. So one of the things that we all have mentioned in one way or another is having money. So we need to know how much money each community is working with.
Imam Faheem?
Yeah, my sentiments are the same. Again, I would like to say as well, I'm really honored to be a part of this panel, and thanking all the people who took their time to tune in. But I think, every time we have these discussions, we have a million different views, outlooks, suggestions, corrections, and I think as a solution, we just need to focus on one concentrated effort that we're going to do. And I think it's going to be money. I think it's going to be economic empowerment, something that we can show people that, okay, I can be a part of this because it's turning into something. You know what I mean? And we got to show, we got to show our people that, something that'll catch fire. Okay, this is what they're doing. Okay, I'm going to get down with it. I'm going to get my money. So we have to figure out what is that thing that we're going to focus on. Because when people are living comfortably and they eating good, it ain't too many arguments going on. You know what I mean? So we got to, put the arguments to rest and work on something that people will see as something beneficial.
Amen.
I think for me, I have three concerns that I think that we need to work on. The first is we need to have an established methodology of learning, believing, practicing our Islam. If we're all over the place with a bunch of ideas and concepts of Islam, we ain't going nowhere. I think that's the first thing we need to address. What is Islam that we agree upon? Without that, we're not going to be unified. We're not going to be on the same page. And I remember one of my teachers said to me about this same unification. People say, we just want unity. We don't need to talk about this. We just all Muslim. He said, how can I unify with someone who says my blood is lawful, my property is lawful, and I am a disbeliever? That'll never happen. He said, so the first thing we need to do is learn Islam, get a definition and understanding of Islam, which the Muslim world has already done. We just got to learn it. It's not like we got to recreate the wheel. That's number one, learning our deen. I think that's important. Second, community. I agree with y'all 100% that we need to build commitments to leadership in communities. First on a local level, then on a national level. First getting communities locally with imams that are in charge, that can make decisions, that can move their congregations, then bring those imams together and they sit together and elect a Amir among themselves. And in the black community, we have a national Imam with local leadership. That's one thing I think about.
That's it right there.
The
That's
last
it.
thing, once we get that, the money will come. We'll get the money. But if we're not unified, we all got money, but it's not together. It's individuals, and that depends on how much you can do. But once we get a national agreed upon methodology, we get local, then national leadership, then we get economics, then we have the power to do what we need to do. Those are the 3 steps I believe we need to make. Imam, you're the elder. We always put it in your hands to close us out, however you wish to do it.
ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. Oh Allah, don't corrupt our hearts after you have given us guidance and given us your robe. Really, you are the bestower. Oh Allah, forgive the believing Muslims and men and women, and raise from amongst us leadership and guide us to the right way here in the United States of America. برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وأصلي ونصلي ونبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
Let me ask you quickly. It's Tuesday. Today's Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Is Tuesday a good day for y'all? Which day is a good day? Because we had to finish these.
Tuesday works for me. I mean, it works. I mean, I'm flexible, man.
You know what I'm saying? Tuesday night is good for everybody?
Yeah.
So we'll schedule for next Tuesday at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we'll chart out some action items like everybody's asking about. We'll have action items for the things we discussed and concrete things we can move. We'll work with that over the week. Can we agree to that?
I'm excited about the comments. I'm looking at the comments, man.
So just go back to your Facebook and look them and answer them. But next Tuesday, we're going to come with a whole list of solutions and action items that we can do to realize what we're talking about.
Inshallah.
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 Barakallahu fikum wa jazakumullahu khaira. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam.
Wow.
Thank you all for your support.